Have you ever wondered if love after 60 is as simple and sweet as it seems? At this stage in life, dating isn't just about butterflies or romance. It carries weight that goes far beyond the heart. After decades of hard work, building a life, and maybe facing loneliness, the desire for companionship is stronger than ever. But the truth is, not every relationship brings peace and joy. Some women, unknowingly or not, can cost you more than just your feelings. They can drain your savings, steal your peace of mind, and even affect your health. I'm not here to scare you, but to help you recognize the warning signs before it's too late. Because mistakes in love after 60 aren't just heartbreaks. They can lead to sleepless nights, financial loss, and stress that's hard on the body. You deserve better than that. You deserve calm, respect, and true companionship that lifts you instead of weighing you down. So, if you're stepping back into the dating world or thinking about it, it's crucial to know which types of women to be cautious around. This isn't about mistrust. It's about protecting the peace and security you've earned over a lifetime. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Type 1. The Drama Queen. They say love makes the world go round, but no one ever warns you just how dizzy it can make you feel, especially later in life. For most of us, our 60s and 70s are meant to be a time of rest, reflection, and maybe, if we're lucky, a gentle second chance at romance. But sometimes, the world throws you a curveball. And for many men, that curveball arrives in the form of a woman who seems to bring both excitement and exhaustion in equal measure. The Drama Queen. You might think you're too old for drama, that those wild youthful days of heartbreak and chaos are behind you. But, in reality, drama can find its way into any life, no matter how many birthdays you've celebrated or how much wisdom you've gathered. Sometimes, the women who carry the most chaos wear the brightest smiles. Sometimes, they don't come into your life with warning bells or flashing red flags, but instead sweep in like a fresh breeze, promising color and laughter after years of solitude. I remember how it felt the first time I met Linda. It was an autumn evening at a neighbor's dinner party. The world was turning golden. The air had that crisp bite that makes you glad to be alive. I'd spent years mostly alone, filling my days with crossword puzzles, tending to my garden, and watching the world quietly pass me by. And then suddenly, there she was, elegant, lively, the sort of woman who seemed to command every eye in the room without trying. Her laugh rang out above the conversation. Her stories were sharp, and for a moment, I felt like I'd stumbled back into my 20s, awkward and hopeful all at once. We struck up a conversation over coffee and pie. She asked about my favorite books, my childhood in Illinois, and the best fishing spots I'd ever found. When she spoke, I felt heard. And when I listened, I realized I was already leaning in, hoping for just a little more of her light. There was something magnetic about Linda, something that made you want to be the man who could finally bring her happiness, someone to rescue her from the storm she described so vividly. That first week, we spoke nearly every day. Sometimes she'd call late at night, her voice trembling as she recounted the latest trouble at work or the harsh words from her grown daughter. She'd say, "You're the only one who really listens," and I'd lie awake afterwards, thinking how lucky I was to have met someone who trusted me so quickly. I was eager to help, eager to prove that good men still existed. But over time, I noticed that Linda's life seemed to be a never-ending series of storms. One day, it was a betrayal by a coworker. The next, it was a cruel sister-in-law or a neighbor who'd wronged her. She'd tell me, "People always let me down," or "No one ever stands up for me." And before I knew it, I had become her confidant, her cheerleader, her emotional anchor. The line between support and sacrifice blurred so quietly, I didn't even realize I'd crossed it. There was one evening that stands out. I was 5 minutes late picking her up for dinner. I'd gotten caught behind a freight train, watching the red lights blink while the world crept by at a crawl. By the time I arrived, Linda was sitting on the front steps, arms folded, her gaze fixed somewhere in the distance. "You don't care about me," she snapped, not even meeting my eyes. The drive was silent, heavy. I apologized, tried to explain, but the rest of the evening felt ruined. And from that night on, the pattern was set. Every little misstep, late phone call, a forgotten detail, an offhand remark, became proof that I wasn't as devoted as she needed. If you've ever been in a relationship like that, you know how it sneaks up on you. At first, it feels like an adventure, a chance to prove your loyalty, your worth. You start to question yourself. Was I thoughtful enough? Did I do something wrong? How can I fix this? And before long, you're spending your days walking on eggshells, trying not to trigger the next storm. Linda's stories became my worries. Her fights with coworkers kept me up at night. When she described arguments with her ex-husband, or her daughter, or her friends, I felt myself being pulled deeper and deeper into her world. I started calling her first thing in the morning, just to make sure she was all right. I canceled golf games, skipped my favorite morning walks, did everything I could to make sure she was happy. But no matter how much I gave, the peace I hoped for kept slipping further away. Looking back, I realized that Linda thrived on conflict. It wasn't enough for her to have a calm, easy day. She needed something to fix, someone to fight, a problem to solve. And when there wasn't a crisis, she'd create one. She'd go silent for days, refusing to answer calls, only to reappear with a story about how hurt she'd been by something I said or did. Sometimes she'd cry, other times she'd get angry, but always, I felt responsible for making things right. What I didn't understand at first was the cost of all this drama. I'm not a young man anymore. The sleepless nights hit harder, and the stress takes longer to shake off. I began waking up tired, my blood pressure creeping up at every checkup. My doctor told me to take it easy, but how could I, when I was tangled up in someone else's battles day after day? Drama doesn't just wear you out emotionally. It chips away at your physical health, too. That pounding heart after a heated argument, the tension in your neck and shoulders, the nagging anxiety that keeps you awake, it all adds up. Scientists have proven that chronic stress raises blood pressure, weakens the immune system, and can even shorten your life. And as we get older, our bodies are less forgiving. What used to take a day to recover now takes a week or more. A single shouting match can leave you drained for days. But the hardest part isn't just the exhaustion. It's the doubt. When every day is a test of loyalty, when every conversation feels like walking a tightrope, you start to lose sight of yourself. I stopped calling old friends, afraid Linda would be jealous. I hesitated before sharing good news with my children, worried it might set off another storm. Little by little, the world shrank until it was just Linda and her ever-present drama. And somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling like myself. I wasn't living my life, I was living hers. I wish I could say there was a dramatic breaking point, some final straw that set me free. The truth is, it was quieter than that. A growing awareness that I was always anxious, always exhausted, always waiting for the next wave to hit. It was realizing that the laughter and light I'd been promised had turned into something heavy, something that pulled me down instead of lifting me. If you're reading this and seeing yourself in my story, I want you to know you're not alone. The drama queen isn't always easy to spot at first. She's often charming, intelligent, and makes you feel alive again. But over time, you start to see the patterns. Every relationship in her life ends in betrayal, every day has a new crisis, and no matter how hard you try, it's never enough. There are warning signs, if you know where to look. Listen to how she talks about other people. If everyone in her story is toxic except her, be cautious. If small problems turn into big ones, if you find yourself apologizing for things you didn't even do, or if you feel guilty for wanting a quiet night alone, pay attention. Your peace of mind is priceless, especially now. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. It's important to set boundaries early. I know, it's not easy. Most of us were raised to be providers, to fix things, to put other people's needs ahead of our own. But after 60, you've earned the right to live in calm waters. You can say, I want peace in my life. I'm not looking for constant conflict. And if the drama keeps coming back, if every disagreement turns into a battle, if every day feels like a storm, you have the right to walk away. Because here's the bottom line. A woman who brings chaos into your world will rarely bring you happiness. At this stage of life, passion is wonderful, but peace is essential. The world is already full of challenges. The last thing you need is to invite new storms into your home, your heart, or your health. I've seen friends go down this road, too. Men who started vibrant and hopeful, only to find themselves exhausted, isolated, and doubting their worth. I've watched as their savings dwindled, sometimes from trying to fix things with gifts, sometimes from missed work or health bills brought on by stress. I've seen good men lose years of joy because they didn't recognize the cost of living in constant turmoil. And it doesn't just happen to one type of man. Whether you're a retired teacher, a small-town mechanic, or a Navy vet who's traveled the world, no one is immune to the pull of drama. The need for companionship, the hope for a happy ending, these are universal. But so is the right to protect yourself. So, what can you do if you meet someone like Linda? Trust your instincts. If your body feels tense, if your mind is always racing, if you catch yourself dreading the next phone call instead of looking forward to it, listen. That's your spirit telling you something is wrong. Talk to your friends, your children, your doctor. Sometimes an outside perspective is all it takes to see what you can't from the inside. And most importantly, permit yourself to step away. It doesn't make you weak, or cold, or unloving. It means you respect yourself and the life you've built. You've already fought enough battles. Now is the time for calm, for laughter, for long walks on quiet mornings, and coffee with people who lift your spirits. If you've ever loved a drama queen, you know the mix of excitement and exhaustion she brings. The highs are high, but the lows are lower than you ever expected. At this age, you deserve better. Your heart deserves calm waters. Your life, after all the work you've put in, should be filled with peace. So let this be your reminder. You are not responsible for fixing anyone else's storms. Love should be a shelter, not a battlefield. You've earned every year, every lesson, every bit of wisdom that brought you this far. Don't let anyone, no matter how charming or beautiful, rob you of the peace you deserve. And if you're brave enough to share your story, you might just help another man spot the signs before he finds himself adrift in someone else's storm. Because the greatest gift you can give yourself, now and always, is the courage to choose calm over chaos, peace over passion, and your well-being above anyone else's drama. Type 2. The overly attached. There's a particular kind of loneliness that settles in during the quiet evenings after 60. The world moves on, children are grown and scattered, and the once busy rhythms of family and career fade to the gentle hum of daily routine. For many, this emptiness creates a longing for connection that runs deeper than ever before. So, when love shows up unexpectedly, it feels almost like a miracle. The sudden warmth of attention, the thrill of being needed again, the comfort of laughter shared across the dinner table. These things awaken something youthful inside us, something hopeful. But sometimes, that hope blinds us to warning signs that, in our younger years, we might have noticed sooner. When you've been alone for a while, affection can feel like rain after a long drought. The phone calls, the messages, the invitations. At first, it all feels flattering. And yet, as many older men have discovered, there's a fine line between devotion and obsession. Frank was a friend of mine from church, the kind of man who always had a smile and a gentle word for everyone. He was a retired accountant, a widower in his late 60s, who had quietly mourned his wife for years before even thinking about dating again. When he finally did, it was with the cautious optimism of a man who knows just how fragile happiness can be. He met Karen at a mutual friend's birthday dinner, and from the very first moment, she seemed captivated by him. She laughed at his jokes, remembered little details from their first conversation, and was the first to call him the next morning. At first, Frank was touched. After so much solitude, the constant attention felt like a blessing. Karen would text him good morning before the sun was even up, call him after lunch to see how his day was going, and every evening she'd check in just to say she missed him. Frank's friends teased him about his new love. He just smiled, a little embarrassed but happy. He began dressing a bit sharper, whistling as he walked, even picking up some old hobbies he'd left behind. It was as if Karen's affection had given him back a piece of himself he thought was gone forever. But as the weeks went by, the frequency of Karen's messages increased. If Frank didn't reply to her texts right away, his phone would fill with messages. "Are you okay? Did I do something wrong? Why aren't you answering me?" At first, he brushed it off. Maybe she was just enthusiastic. Maybe she'd been hurt before and needed reassurance. But it wasn't long before her need for connection began to feel suffocating. If Frank made plans with his grandchildren or spent time with his old friends, Karen would go silent for hours or even days. When he'd finally hear from her again, she'd be in tears, convinced he didn't care about her enough. She accused him, gently at first and then more directly, of putting everyone else before her. Frank, being the good-natured soul he was, tried to reassure her. He canceled golf games, skipped lunches with his buddies, and started rearranging his schedule so Karen would feel like his top priority. Slowly, his world shrank. What started as a full, independent life became increasingly centered on Karen's needs and moods. The more he tried to reassure her, the more demanding she became. Karen insisted on being the first and last person he spoke to each day. She wanted to know where he was, who he was with, and what he was doing at every moment. If he didn't answer her calls immediately, she'd leave voicemails with a trembling voice. "Frank, I'm worried. Please call me back." Sometimes, she'd show up at his house unannounced, just to make sure he was all right. At first, Frank interpreted all of this as love. "She just really cares about me," he'd say. But his friends started to notice changes. He was more withdrawn, tired, less likely to show up for things he once enjoyed. He looked over his shoulder often, checked his phone compulsively, and seemed perpetually anxious. He was afraid of upsetting Karen, afraid of her silences and her tears. He found himself apologizing for wanting a few hours to himself or for spending time with his family. What Frank didn't see was that Karen's behavior wasn't just love, it was fear masquerading as devotion. Her entire world seemed to revolve around him. If he tried to take a step back, even for a moment, she would become anxious and distant, using guilt or tears to pull him back in. The more he gave, the less freedom he felt. The reality is, at our age, we've built routines that bring us comfort. Maybe it's a quiet morning coffee with a newspaper, a weekly bowling night, Sunday dinners with family, or afternoons spent tinkering in the garage. These moments, these rituals, are a big part of what keeps us healthy and whole. When a partner tries to take over every inch of your time and space, it isn't love, it's a form of control, born out of their fear of abandonment. And the toll this takes on a person is significant. Frank started to lose sleep. He felt a growing sense of guilt for wanting time to himself, for spending a Saturday afternoon with his grandkids, or even just for reading a book alone. He felt like every choice he made needed to be justified or explained. Instead of feeling rejuvenated by companionship, he began to feel drained, emotionally and physically. Research shows that as we age, stress becomes a far more dangerous thing. High blood pressure, heart issues, trouble sleeping, these things don't just come from arguments and worry, they come from never having space to relax. When you spend every day anxious about how someone will react to your decisions, it chips away at your well-being. That kind of pressure, day after day, is simply not sustainable. The hardest part for Frank was admitting, even to himself, that something wasn't right. He didn't want to hurt Karen. He knew she'd been alone a long time, too. He felt responsible for her happiness, for calming her fears. But over time, he started to see that no amount of reassurance would ever be enough. She needed more from him than he could ever give. Eventually, one Sunday afternoon, his daughter sat him down. She told him, gently but firmly, that she was worried. "Dad, you're not yourself anymore. You don't smile the way you used to. You look tired. We all see it." At first, Frank tried to defend Karen, but his daughter just took his hand and said, "You deserve to be happy too." That conversation stayed with Frank. He began to notice just how much of his life he'd given up, how much of himself he'd lost in trying to meet someone else's needs. It wasn't about being selfish, it was about remembering that love, at any age, should give you space to breathe, not chain you down. Looking back, Frank could see the warning signs. The little things that, at first, felt sweet but soon became overwhelming. The endless calls and texts, the questions about where he was, the silences that lasted until he apologized, the tears and accusations whenever he wanted time with family or friends. He realized that a healthy relationship doesn't mean giving up your independence. It means sharing your life, not surrendering it. If you find yourself with a partner who insists on being your entire world, who needs your attention every moment of every day, take a step back and ask yourself, am I still living my own life? Do I have time for the things I love, for my family, for myself? Or do I feel like I'm always explaining, apologizing, and trying to keep the peace? It's not selfish to need time alone. It's not wrong to spend a weekend with your grandkids, to see old friends, to pursue your hobbies. These things make you a better partner. They keep you happy, healthy, and whole. A loving companion will understand this. She'll celebrate your independence, not punish you for it. That's the difference between love and fear. True love walks beside you. It doesn't cling so tightly that you can't breathe. It allows you space to grow, to rest, to find joy in your own company as well as someone else's. Fear, on the other hand, tries to hold on tighter and tighter until both people feel trapped. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. After his talk with his daughter, Frank made the hard decision to have an honest conversation with Karen. He explained that while he cared for her deeply, he needed space in his life for his family, his friends, and for himself. Karen, predictably, didn't take it well. She cried, accused him of not loving her enough, and threatened to leave if he didn't change. But for the first time, Frank didn't try to fix it. He stood his ground, and although it was painful, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders. It wasn't easy, and for a while, Frank doubted his decision. But slowly, he began to reclaim the pieces of his old life. He started golfing again, joined friends for breakfast, and spent long afternoons with his grandkids. The anxiety faded, the guilt dissolved, and in its place came a quiet sense of peace. He realized he was happier, healthier, and more himself than he'd been in years. Frank's story isn't unique. So many older men, eager for love after years of loneliness, fall into relationships that promise devotion but deliver suffocation. It's important to recognize the signs early. If your partner doesn't respect your need for space, if she tries to control your time and emotions, if you feel anxious instead of happy, take it seriously. Love at this stage of life should be a source of joy, not a new set of chains. You deserve a partner who enriches your life, who makes you feel good about yourself, and who supports your independence. The right woman will celebrate your time with family, encourage your hobbies, and be happy knowing that your life is full, with or without her by your side. So, if you're entering the dating world after 60, remember what you've learned from a lifetime of relationships. Trust your instincts. Be honest about your needs. Don't mistake love obsession, and don't trade your freedom for fleeting comfort. You have every right to enjoy these years, to fill your days with the people and activities that make you happy. At the end of the day, the lesson is simple. Love isn't meant to be a prison. It should set you free, not tie you down. The best relationships, especially later in life, are the ones that let you breathe, grow, and be fully yourself. If you've ever experienced a relationship like Frank's, know that you're not alone, and that it's never too late to choose peace, independence, and true companionship over the empty promise of endless attention. You've earned the right to enjoy your life on your terms. Don't settle for anything less. Type 3. The money magnet. In our golden years, many of us have worked hard and made sacrifices, not just to survive, but to build a life of stability and comfort. After decades of steady paychecks, saving for retirement, paying off mortgages, and planning for the future, we finally reach a place where we can breathe a little easier. It's a time to enjoy the fruits of our labor, to travel, to spend time with family, or simply to relax knowing the bills are paid. And for many men over 60, this is also the moment when they open their hearts again to companionship, to love. But love at this stage comes with its challenges. Challenges that didn't exist in youth or middle age. One of the most painful is realizing that not everyone who shows interest in your life is drawn to your heart. Some people, sadly, are drawn to what you've earned, what you have, your savings, your house, your pension. They're what I call money magnets. They come with charm and elegance, often reminding you of the glamorous women you might have seen in old Hollywood movies. Graceful, poised, with a smile that lights up the room. They know how to make you feel special, wanted, even needed. But behind that glittering exterior, their eyes are often fixed not on your smile or your stories, but on your wallet. I remember Harold well. He was a Navy veteran, 72 years old, proud and quiet, with a lifetime of discipline behind him. He had a modest home paid off, a good retirement pension, and a small nest egg that he'd saved for emergencies and the occasional treat. Harold was the kind of man who rarely complained, who kept to himself and found joy in simple things. Fishing on Saturday mornings, chatting with neighbors, and reading old war stories. When Harold met Denise, through an online dating site, he thought he'd found a rare gift. Denise was 60, elegant and well-spoken, with a laugh that could fill a room. Their first few dates were delightful. Dinners at cozy restaurants, long walks in the park, and conversations that stretched into the night. Harold felt young again, hopeful that maybe this was the fresh start he'd been waiting for. But after a few weeks, the tone began to change. Denise would casually mention how expensive her bills were, or sigh about not being able to afford a vacation. At first, Harold listened with sympathy. He wanted to help. After all, wasn't that what love was about, supporting one another through hardships? Soon, the asks became more frequent. A new phone here, a little help with a credit card there. Harold, being generous, offered to help when he could. It started small, a gift here, a loan there, but soon it became an expectation. When Denise suggested a trip to the Caribbean, Harold hesitated. It was a big expense, and though he could afford it, something in his gut told him to be careful. That's when Denise began to pull away. Her calls slowed down, and the warmth in her voice cooled. Before Harold knew it, she was gone, moving on to someone else who might fund her lifestyle. The whole experience left Harold feeling used, hurt, and confused. What many older men don't realize is that the money magnet rarely arrives with a clear sign flashing, "Beware." She's subtle, patient, and skilled at making you feel like the most important man in the world. She knows just what to say to make you open your heart and your wallet. And she'll tell stories about her past relationships, how no one ever took care of her, how she's been let down, designed to pull at your heartstrings and make you want to be her savior. But the truth is this: a woman who truly loves you won't measure her feelings by your bank account. She'll be interested in your dreams, your joys, and your stories, not just the numbers in your retirement fund. Love that comes with a price tag isn't love at all. It's a business transaction disguised as romance. It's wise to keep your financial information private, especially in the early months of a new relationship. Don't rush into joint accounts, don't buy expensive gifts you can't afford, and don't make major decisions until you're sure of her intentions. Listen to your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Remember, your money is a tool for your comfort and security, not a ticket to buy affection or loyalty. You've earned every dollar through years of hard work, and you deserve someone who values you for who you are, not what you can give. One of the hardest lessons for many men is learning to say no without guilt. When a woman you care about asks for help, it's natural to want to say yes. But it's also important to recognize when generosity becomes exploitation. A true partner will respect your boundaries and understand that financial help has limits. If you ever feel like the conversations revolve more around money and possessions than feelings and mutual respect, pay attention. If her eyes light up more when you mention your savings than when you talk about your favorite hobby or childhood memories, that's a red flag. It's heartbreaking to see good men lose years of peace and happiness because they trusted too quickly or gave too much. The scars from financial betrayal aren't just about money. They cut deep into your sense of self-worth and trust. But it's not all doom and gloom. There are wonderful women out there who cherish you for your kindness, your humor, and the wisdom you've gathered over a lifetime. They want to walk beside you, not take from you. They celebrate your independence, support your dreams, and bring joy without conditions. The challenge is to be patient, to keep your heart open but your eyes wide. Take your time getting to know someone. Observe how she talks about money and generosity. Is it balanced, or does it seem one-sided? Notice whether she respects your boundaries and appreciates you for more than material things. In the end, love after 60 should feel like coming home. It should be a place of warmth, safety, and mutual respect. Your golden years are your reward, your time to enjoy the peace you've worked hard to earn. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. If you've ever encountered a money magnet, know you're not alone. And if you've been hurt, it's never too late to heal and protect yourself. Your heart, your peace, and your security matter more than any fleeting promise. Choose love that lifts you, not one that drains your savings and your spirit. Because the best chapters of your life are still ahead, and they deserve to be written in calm waters, not troubled seas. When the dust settles after heartbreak or disappointment, it's easy to believe that love after 60 is just too complicated to be worth the risk. The world today feels faster, the rules have changed, and sometimes the wounds of the past make us build walls instead of bridges. But the truth is, there's still so much beauty waiting in this chapter, if you approach it with wisdom, self-respect, and hope. The years have given you more than gray hair and laughter lines. They've given you instincts. Trust them. If something feels off, if a new companion brings more anxiety than joy, listen to that little voice inside. Trust your gut instincts. You've lived enough life to sense when something doesn't add up, even if you can't always explain why. Your body knows the truth before your mind is ready to accept it. And remember, there's no need to rush. The best things in life unfold slowly. Take things slow. You don't have to bare your whole soul on the first few dates, or feel pressured to merge lives or finances before you're truly ready. The right partner will respect your pace and understand the value of letting trust and intimacy develop naturally, one honest conversation at a time. Finances, in particular, deserve careful protection. Guard your finances. You spent a lifetime working for your security and comfort. It's wise to keep your financial details private in the early stages of any relationship. Don't let loneliness or flattery push you to make big gestures or commitments too quickly. Ask yourself, would I offer this if I weren't hoping for love in return? If the answer is no, wait. Your financial security is a legacy worth protecting. But even beyond money, you have the right to keep sacred the things that make your days meaningful. Protect your personal space. Whether it's your weekly poker game, quiet mornings with the paper, or time with your grandchildren, these are not selfish luxuries. They're essential to your happiness and well-being. A healthy relationship will add to your life, not take away from it. The right woman will celebrate your independence and encourage your connections, not resent them. Pay attention, too, to how she speaks about others. Observe how she talks about others. If every story from her past ends in betrayal or conflict, if she sees herself as a constant victim, be cautious. The way someone speaks about people in their past is often the way they'll eventually speak about you. And anyone can be on their best behavior for a little while. Look for consistency over time. It's the everyday moments, how she reacts to small disappointments, treats a waitress, or money talks, that reveal a person's true nature. Real character shows up when no one's watching, and it's only with time that you see who someone is. Above all, remember you deserve joy and peace. Not just the promise of it, but the real, lived experience. You've weathered storms, fought battles, and earned every moment of calm that comes your way. Love, at this age, shouldn't feel like a job interview, or like walking on eggshells. It should feel like coming home, like laughter around the dinner table, like the comfort of a warm hand to hold after a long day. Jerry and Susan are proof that this kind of happiness is still possible. Jerry, at 71, never imagined he'd meet someone who understood his need for space and quiet. Susan, a widow herself, valued her independence just as much as he did. They met at a community gardening club and spent months getting to know each other, each keeping their own space, moving forward only as trust and comfort grew. Today, they travel the country in an RV, two companions sharing adventures, but also respecting their differences. They laugh every day, yet still keep their bank accounts and their own lives. For them, love isn't about losing themselves in each other, but about supporting and delighting in the lives they've built, side by side. Of course, there will always be risks. The world doesn't offer any guarantees, and sometimes opening your heart again can feel like standing in the wind, uncertain and exposed. But don't let fear steal the chance for joy. Keep your eyes open, your heart wise, and your standards high. Don't trade away your hard-earned peace or your freedom, not for anyone. Let your story be a testament to the fact that it's never too late for a new beginning. Keep believing that the best chapter might still be waiting for you, written not in haste or loneliness, but in patience, courage, and the deep knowledge of what you truly deserve. At this age, love can be richer, truer, and more peaceful than ever before. If you protect your spirit, listen to your instincts, and never settle for less than you're worth. So take that leap, but do it with wisdom. The right partner won't demand that you change or sacrifice your happiness. She'll inspire you to be your truest, most joyful self. And that, in the end, is the kind of love that lasts. As we come to the end of this conversation, I want to leave you with a simple but powerful reminder. You deserve peace, joy, and love that lifts you, not tears that weigh you down. Life after 60 is a precious gift, a time to cherish the wisdom you've earned, to embrace companionship without losing yourself, and to protect the calm you've worked so hard to build. If you've learned anything today, let it be this. Love doesn't have to come with chaos, fear, or financial strain. It can be gentle, steady, and deeply fulfilling. And you have the right to expect nothing less. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever encountered one of these types of women in your own life? How did you recognize the signs, and what did you learn from the experience? Or maybe you have your advice about dating after 60 that could help others in this community. Please share your story in the comments below. It might just save another man from heartache or hardship. If you found value in this video, please take a moment to like it and share it with friends or family who might also benefit. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more honest, heartfelt conversations that honor the lives and love of men like you. Your support helps this community grow and allows me to keep sharing these important stories and lessons. Remember, age is not a barrier to happiness. The only limits are the ones you place on your own heart. So protect your peace, trust your instincts, and keep believing that the best chapters of your life are still waiting to be written.